ان ايوه خلاص الريكوردينج بدأ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه المنتجبين. أما بعد، اليوم نرحب بإخواننا من بريطانيا وأمريكا، هم شركة هيومن وير، حيث أنهم سيتكلمون معنا عن التطويرات والتحديث العربي للفيكتور ريدر تريك. وهذا الجهاز مثل ما أنتم تعرفونه هو جهاز لقراءة الكتب والنافيجيشن. خلينا نسمع منهم وبعدين نرجع احنا نتكلم من مؤسسة أصدقاء اللي أنا بكلمكم أخوكم حسين نظر عن اللي صار مع الفيكتور ريدر تريك إن شاء الله. خلينا أول شيء نبدأ بإخواننا من شركة هيومن وير، وبعدين راح احنا يكون عندنا كلمة، وفي نهاية الفعالية راح يكون هنالك مجال ان تستفسرون او تسألون عن الجهاز. يعطيكم العافية. تفضل. Please Mr. David, start with your speech.
Okay, so salam alaikum. Hello all. And thank you for the opportunity once again to be with our friends and to talk about our progress and our products. So today we would like to talk about our handheld pocket-sized media player and navigation device, the Victor Reader Trek. And for some of you familiar with our Victor Reader Stream, it's really building on the advantages of that device, so the online and offline bookshelves and the media playback and the voice recorder, but also adding the sort of navigation that you'd be familiar with from using something like Google Maps or from seeing navigation in vehicles. So it's giving that power, that accessibility now to navigate the built environment to pedestrian users and obviously particularly visually impaired users. So joining us here today, I'm pleased to introduce Peter Tusik. Peter is our head of strategic partnerships. So Peter is going to give you the overview of the features and functions of the Victor Reader Trek, but also as Peter is a visually impaired person himself, he can give you an insight into how he uses that product and how, you know, the independence wins that gives him. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Peter.
Thank you so much, David. And I just would like to say that I'm thrilled to be here. I am from Chicago, and I have been with HumanWare for the last 7 years. Hopefully, you know, as much as I like to do these things virtually or as great as Zoom is, I would love to actually come and meet all of you in person at some point. So hopefully this will lead to that, and we can do some more hands-on or different types of trainings, because it's, you know, it's wonderful to be able to bring this sort of product into other parts of the world. We've kind of had this presence in GPS technology for a long time. We've had various products, you know, be successful in different parts of the world, but it's really nice to have the localizations as well as all of the maps to be able to bring the product to all of you. So I'm going to spend the next 15-ish minutes or so talking about not only the benefits of the product, but as David said, how I use the product and how somebody who is totally blind, what are the advantages? You know, many of us are using other products. We use the iPhone, or we might use other GPS apps on smartphones or tablets. But what is it that makes this device relevant and makes this device, you know, functional to somebody who is totally blind like myself or any blind or visually impaired traveler? As David mentioned, the device does combine the functionality of the audio playback side of things, so Daisy books, recording notes, internet radio stations. You know, all of that has been on the Victor Reader Stream for a long time, and we know the product is used widely. And we, you know, when we built and developed the Victor Reader Trek, we were really looking at how can we even further bring functionality into the product. And we've made GPS products that were standalone for a long time, but this really allowed us to kind of keep a lot of the continuity, so a lot of the buttons, for instance, that you might use when you're reading a book, those same buttons will be relevant or will be very similar when you're in GPS. And what I mean by that is, when you're reading a book on a Victor Reader Stream product, the number 5 key is where am I? Where am I in my book? So again, it tells us what page we're on, or maybe it tells us the percentage of where we are. When we use the product as a GPS device, the number 5 is where am I, once again. So this is one example of how we want existing Victor Reader Stream users to be able to use the GPS side of the product and have it make perfect sense, because a lot of the buttons, a lot of the functions will be similar, and somebody who knows how to use a stream will be able to quickly learn and realize the similarities when you're using the GPS side of things. So we've done that a lot, and I will give some more examples of how that kind of works. But again, we wanted and we knew that the existing footprint, or how the Victor Reader Stream looks, we knew that bringing that into a GPS product would be very relevant. The device where it really stands out and what really makes the product successful, even with iPhones and other devices today, are two things. Number one, when we use a product like the Victor Reader Trek, we're not using data on our phones. We're able to bring maps in an offline environment with us. We're not reliant on sometimes very slow or very costly data connections. So we're able to bypass that. That would be one major advantage. The second major advantage is the ability for us to explore environments virtually. And what I mean by this is we can be sitting on our couch and we can be walking around either the city we live in or another city virtually. So we don't have to actually go and use the device live to learn about the streets, to learn about the way the environment is laid out. We can get our intersections, we can turn and walk and explore, so that when we do eventually go out, we're more familiar with the surroundings because we've been able to explore them virtually. And this is I'll give some examples of this, but it really helps me learn about an environment before I go. I just got back from a conference in New Orleans. I was at the National Federation of the Blind conference for the past week. And we had 2,000 blind people in one hotel. And what I like to do before I go to the hotel is I like to take my Victor Reader Trek and I like to explore around the hotel to try and so that I have an understanding of where it is that I might want to go. If I need to get a cup of coffee, or I need to go find some lunch or something around the hotel. Being able to explore first before I even leave, being able to virtually explore that environment really makes it tremendously, way easier for me once I get there. And I was doing this a lot because New Orleans is a very old, very, a city with very narrow streets. There are lots of streets that kind of all get jumbled up and go in different places. And I was able to confidently show up at the hotel and kind of know not only what the streets were around my hotel, but also points of interest. And that is another great feature of the Victor Reader Trek, is being able to either look at categories of places, so whether it's restaurants or banking institutions, or looking at categories, but also being able to search by name. So you can pull up points of interest as well. Again, the third advantage, so we've talked about two sort of pieces that set the device apart from mainstream products. One is the standalone capability, being able to not have to worry about data. The second really is virtual map browsing. We can learn about environments before we even go. And the third is and this is not very applicable to myself, but to many of our users who use the product, the iPhone can be a struggle. And it's I also find it difficult sometimes to use the iPhone or a smartphone with one hand. And the nice thing about a product like the Victor Reader Track is you are able to use it with one hand because it is a push button device. So you're not having to swipe and tap, and trying to do a 3-finger double tap, for instance, is a little bit difficult when you have one hand on your cane and the other hand trying to use your phone. So it is, it improves the ease of use for that one-handed user, which when we travel as blind people, we usually have some sort of mobility aid in one of our hands. Either we're holding on to somebody for guidance. Sometimes we have a cane in one hand. So again, we don't have both of our hands free to operate technology. A lot of times we need to use one hand, and this is another major advantage. When it comes to the information that you receive from the device, it is very relevant to a blind person. And that's a little bit different from what somebody who is sighted needs. When I'm traveling, I need to know the information I need can differ, right? It's not the same. I need to know not only what street I'm coming up to, but I need to know what type of intersection is this that I'm coming to, so that I can use my mobility skills to cross the street. And I can actually know that it's a 4-way intersection or a 3-way intersection. That's going to change the way that I kind of approach the environment. So you are going to be able to get not only your direction of travel, the street you're on, the civic number or house number that you are near, but also you're going to be able to get the type of intersection that you are coming up to. Additionally, you are able to drop landmarks into your environment. And this is very common for somebody who is sighted. They will often drop a pin on a map, and then their friends or colleagues or somebody can know exactly where to meet them. What we are able to do on the device is bring in landmarks. And there are 2 types of landmarks, but we will usually record them with a voice tag. And whenever we re-encounter that same space in our environment, our voice will tell us where we are. And I use this a lot as well. Even last week, I dropped a landmark directly outside the hotel we were staying at, so that when I was walking back to the hotel, as soon as I got within 20 or 30 feet of that landmark, my voice was saying, Convention Hotel, or whatever I recorded, so that you are able to get those landmarks to better help you identify where you are. Those are usually created by yourself by tapping the landmark button, which is a diamond-shaped button on the top of the device, and you're able to record a 4-second landmark that will be announced as soon as you as soon as you get right back to that location. The other piece, in addition to landmarks, you can also create routes or receive directions. And this is relevant both to vehicles and also to pedestrians. So either walking or driving directions. A lot of us will receive rides from our parents or maybe a spouse or relatives who are taking us somewhere. And it's very nice to be able to tell that person where to go. So driving directions are very important to somebody who is blind, because a lot of times we need to get a ride somewhere. So the ability to get turn-by-turn instructions, and not only can you get the instructions, but you can also move forward or backward through the upcoming steps, so that you can prepare and say, okay, well, I know we've turned right on this street we're on. I can see the next instruction, but I can even go further, so that I'm really thinking about where I'm going to be directing the person who is taking me where I need to go. Or if you're walking somewhere, or you're kind of out on your own, you can preview routes as well. So again, the device is far more than just a way to know where you are in your environment. GPS is very standard. We've had access to GPS technology for almost 30 years in a mainstream environment. But what we need as blind people can be very different. So we do need more information. We want to be able to use the device in different ways. And this is where the products, really will be unique, because it does allow us to drop landmarks, to receive pedestrian or driving directions, and then again to virtually or offline browse, which is extremely important. Even though I'm blind, I love to look at maps. I love to know my environment. I like to know where I'm going. I also like to know about cities I've never been to. It can be kind of fun. I mean, if you are able to, explore a city you've never been, maybe you're going on a vacation, or maybe you are, you're moving through that environment at some point in time. So it can be extremely relevant. The other piece is, so we have introduced many new countries as part of this update. So we're using maps called HERE, H-E-R-E, HERE maps. These maps are used currently in autonomous vehicle research, which I know is something that excites all of us, myself and everyone else who is blind. Self-driving cars and all these things have been talked about for a long time. The maps that are used often in this research for self-driving cars are HERE maps. So again, the accuracy is very important. And we're able to gladly say that we are also using HERE maps. These maps are high definition maps that are very accurate. They are, they will receive updates extensively, and we're able to download them in two different ways onto the Victor Reader Trek. The first way is to actually use the device itself via our Wi-Fi connection. So we use Wi-Fi on the device to download books or to listen to internet radio. We can also use the Wi-Fi connection to download maps, and you're not limited to the countries that you can download maps from. So the maps will be presented in different packages, depending on the region of the world that you want to explore. And I'm sure David or Chromie or someone can validate what these new packages will look like, because I have not checked. But I know that they're going to be broken into regions, and you will be able to download as multiple maps at once. So you're not just limited to one area. You can certainly, the internal size of the device is 32 gigabytes. That is a lot of maps. You can't put the whole world on your device, but you can get pretty close. So being able to do that is extremely important, and you can download them directly from the device itself. You would do this by using your number 7 key, which brings you into your menus when you're on your online bookshelf, and you're able to come in and select or deselect the countries you'd like. And I've recorded some webinars on how to do this that may be very helpful for those who want more of an in-depth demonstration. Alternatively, because as we know, downloading over Wi-Fi can be very slow, even if you have a very fast Wi-Fi connection, right? It has to come out and find our server, the HumanWare servers, that will then send the maps to you. And this might be time consuming because they are large maps. So you can also bring maps onto the device from a computer. If you are on our website, you will be able to go to the support section for the Victor Reader Trek, and all of our map packages are listed here. So all of them, the maps, will be broken down again by country. But what you can do, instead of downloading them over Wi-Fi, you can bring them onto your computer, and you can connect your player. You would turn your player on, and again, I've demonstrated how to do this in previous webinars. But you are able to move the maps over to an SD card, and then you will use the player, and it will install the maps locally. So you don't have to do it online. You are able to bring the maps over on an SD card, and it's a lot quicker. Certainly can be 10 times faster to do it this way if you don't want to wait for the Wi-Fi to kind of go through the server side. So either way, we know when we build products, our users have a lot of needs, and sometimes somebody wants Wi-Fi and they want to do it that way, but also certainly we want you to be able to update multiple units at once, or be a lot quicker or more efficient through bringing maps in from your PC. Continuing on, and again, thinking about some of the other unique ways that the product is relevant. One of the biggest is open area mode. And this is something we have a very unique examples of how open area mode can be used. And the reason why it's important is a lot of times you're not on a street grid. A lot of times as a blind traveler, you find yourself out in various environments that don't put you on the street.
Out of the map, you mean?
Yes, out of the map. So this might be, for instance, in a large park in the middle of a city, or maybe you are at a shopping mall. You're outside. You're in a location where you're not on a street, but you are outside in these large areas that are not on the street grid. And what the product allows you to do is to put yourself in open area mode where you can drop landmarks. And this is, again, something that is unique to a product like the Victor Reader Trek. You're able to then navigate. So let's just, for example, say you are on a large college campus, or you're in this large city park, or you're somewhere that is not on the street grid. You can drop a point in that area and you can be navigated back to it. And I use this a lot, especially when I was attending university. My university had a very large open area, and there were many different buildings that were kind of located around that area. So I was able to put a landmark at the entrance for those buildings, and I could navigate to it.
You can put a landmark for shops in the mall, and you can enable to walk between the landmarks.
Yes, absolutely. And this would be very relevant, if you are in some of those massively awesome malls that exist in various parts of the Middle East. And I know, again, there's no way to navigate those because they're not really on a street grid. So this would allow you to drop a landmark outside of a certain store, and then be able to get to the next one. And you're getting those directions, via kind of meters. Instead of saying turn left on this street or turn right on this street, it's going to say 56 meters at 9 o'clock, and you'll be able to then navigate to those locations. So again, another very unique way to kind of use the product. And we think about bringing in features that will benefit specifically a blind traveler, and how they will differ from what a regular just GPS app or GPS device would do for somebody who is sighted. So I'm gonna pause here. I've been going and just talking, but I'd very much like to thank everyone for this opportunity, and I'm certainly able to provide a lot more information depending on what the needs may be.
Thank you very much. رامي،
معك حبيبي، تفضل.
اشكره بالنيابه عنا، وقول لنا ان شاء الله احنا بعد بنسوي مثل استعراضات عربيه للجهاز، ونتمنى ان الاستعراضات هذه بعد انتم تستخدمونها عشان تعطونها للعرب يوزرز اللي بياخذون الجهاز.
So we thank you, Peter, for your insightful presentation. That was really a lot of helpful hints about how the device can be used and how it's beneficial to the blind community around the area here. So we're also monitoring and following your tutorials that you produce, and we are also in course of producing some tutorials in Arabic that follows the footsteps of yours. And we're hopeful that they are ready in a few weeks. So we thank you so much for the information that you provided.
وأقول له وانتهز الفرصة هني اني اقول حق ديفيد ان احنا ان شاء الله في شهر 8 بنسوي كورس رسمي عن طريق المؤسسة.
قلت بقى انا كلنا بقول لهم ان شاء الله.
اوكي زين.
عشان يبقى يدونا
تمام. الحين بيكون الكلمة عندنا، قل له وإذا يحب إنه ينتظر عشان أترجم له إياها.
So Peter and David, Hussein will be summarizing what you've just said.
Sure.
In a few minutes, and then there will be some few other minutes for questions if possible.
Excellent.
أوكي. إنزين، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شباب يعطيكم العافية. أنا حاب إني أخلي شرحي مبسط لكم، لأن ما نبي ناخذ من وقت الإخوان، لأن بالاختلاف الدول والاختلاف الالتزامات، فإحنا نبي بس نقول إن إحنا الفيكتور ريدر تريك جهاز مطور عن الفيكتور ريدر ستريم. للي مو بعارف الستريم شنو، يقدر يرجع ل VIF كتر التقنية، لأن عندنا 16 محاضرة في هالمجال، وأكيد في توتوريال إنجليزية موجودة في هيومن وير. انزين، الفيكتور ريدر تريك شنو التطويرات، او خليني اقول شنو الهيستوري اللي عندنا احنا اللي صار معانا في هاي السنه. في شهر 1 تقريبا وصل لي جهاز الفيكتور ريدر تريك، وطلب منا الهيومن وير انه نحاول ان ندخل البيتا وياهم على اساس نسويه باللغه العربيه ونطوره عشان العرب يوزرز. فاحنا الحمد لله رب العالمين بالتعاون مع الاستاذ كرامي والتعاون معاي والتعاون مع الاستاذ عباس ضبطنا الدنيا ورتبناها. فسوينا عده ملاحظات ارسلناها للشركه، بعض الملاحظات اخذت وتم اصدار الإصدار الأخير للبيتا فيرجن، وبالفعل تحول إلى بابليك فيرجن وهو للغة العربية. كان العربي بالفعل كان يوقف، يعني كان في أوقات الجهاز خلاص يوقف عليك، لكن لله الحمد خلصنا ضبطنا الجهاز وعدلناه انه يكون متوافق تماما مع اللغة العربية، وترجمنا المابس، وصار ان في دول اكثر. دخلنا دولة قطر، دخلنا فلسطين، دخلنا العراق، دخلنا مصر، دخلنا الدول العربية تقريبا موجودة. في تقسيم للخرائط، عندهم الميدل ايست، وعندهم اللي شو الشرق الاوسط، وعندهم اسيا وافريقيا والامريكتين. اختصار الموضوع هاي بالنسبة للمابس. الجهاز ايضا يدعم البلوتوث اللي الاتصال اللاسلكي بالسماعات، وبالتالي انت ممكن انك توصل سماعه بلوتوث وتقعد تستمع باحترافيه، وممكن حتى سبيكرات الصغيره ممكن تحطها جنبك فيرفع لك صوت الفيكتور ريدر اذا انت تعتبر ان صوت الفيكتور ريدر خفيف. الجانب المطور ايضا ان هم كنسلوا موضوع المايك الخارجي، وجعلوا المايك الخارجي والهيدفون في جاك واحد او وصله واحده، وهي وصله ال 3.5 كومبو. ايضا دعموا تطور الواي فاي، دعموا ايضا ال 64 جيجا بايت رسميا، حيث ان كان في الفيكتور ريدر ستريم رسميا كاتب لك انه 32، هنا قال لك 64. البطاريه كبرت، يعتبرونها ان كبرت 5 ساعات زياده عشان موضوع البلوتوث والخرائط. يعني الخرائط كانت ما لها خص في النت، مثل ما قال الاستاذ بيتر، ان من اهم ايجابيات الجهاز ان خرائطه اوف لاين، يعني انت تجيب الخريطه ممكن عن طريق الاس دي كارد عن طريق الكمبيوتر، او ممكن تدور الخريطه عن طريق اللي هو عندهم رقم 7 في الاوف لاين، في الاونلاين مود، تضربه تقريبا في وضع الانترنت تضربه تقريبا 5 مرات او 6 مرات توصل للخرائط، وممكن تنزل خرائط من هناك. الجانب المطور ايضا ان الجهاز قام يدعم اذاعات اكثر في مجال الانترنت. الانواع الصوتيات هي انواع التكست هي في قائمة بالفعل ستنزل للمحاضرات الخاصة فينا. المحاضرة الأولى بالفعل تسجلت، اليوم بسجل المحاضرة الثانية بإذن الله، وراح تلاقون مفاجآت كبيرة في الجهاز. تابعونا في هالقائمة إن شاء الله، راح تستفيدون منها. وعندنا مثل ما قلت أنا حق أستاذ كرامي، إن قلت حق ديفيد إن إحنا عندنا كورس في شهر 8 للي حاب إنه يسجل في الفيكتور ريدر تريك. تفضل أستاذ كرامي، يا ريت إذا بتترجم لهم، وبعدين نفتح المجال للأسئلة. مثل ما قلت لكم وايد قالوا إن ايجابيات الجهاز ان الخرائط اوف لاين، ايجابيات الجهاز ان تقدر تمسكها بيد واحده، ايجابيات الجهاز انك انت بعيد كل البعد عن استخدام الداتا اللي ممكن تكون غاليه عليك، فبالتالي انت من خلال هالجهاز تقدر تقرا، تقدر تستخدم الخرائط بدون ما تصرف على الداتا او تصرف بصرفيات ما لها داعي. تفضلوا يا شباب، او الاستاذ كرامي اول شيء وبعدين الشباب.
طيب تمام. لو في اي حد عنده اي سؤال او استفسار بيقدر يطرحه، وان شاء الله بننقله للشباب. يعطيك العافيه يا حسين. طبعا لو في اي حد عنده سؤال يقدر بس يرفع المايك ويسال سؤاله، وان شاء الله معنا
معنا 10 دقائق الى ربع ساعه اسئله، 10 دقائق على اساس ما نطول عليهم الجماعه.
اللغه العربيه عادي بحيث الشباب برضه يكونوا فاهمين.
باللغه العربيه يا حبيبي، باللغه
طيب.
العربيه واحنا نترجم لهم، ما عندك مشكله.
اوكي عشان بس الشباب يكونوا مطلعين على الكلام. طيب اول حاجه برحب بمستر ديفيد، برحب بكم كلكم. انا الحقيقه ومستر بيتر ومبسوط حقيقه بمنتجات هيومن وير، ولكن انا عندي كم ملحوظه، هي مش اسئله على قد ما هي حاجات لازم تتاخد في الاعتبار. فيكتور ريدر واشباهه اجهزه يعني مخصصه للمكفوفين، فيعني مثلا كنت اتمنى ان يكون فيكتور ريدر تريك فيه ستيريو سبيكرز، دول ستيريو سبيكرز محترمه، يكون بيدعم حاجات زي التايب سي. انا عارف الحاجات دي اخذت في الاعتبار وتوصلت، ولكن حابب ان اسلط الضوء عليها هنا. النقطه الثانيه قطع الغيار، لو الله تلف احدها ايه بيكون
شلون سؤالك الثاني؟
قطع الغيار اذا تلف احدها ايه بيكون الحل؟
بالنسبه لي السؤال الاول، طبعا احنا
كملاحظات
هاردوير، معلش، كملاحظات هاردوير احنا اوريدي اعطيناهم اياه قائمه كامله في شهر 2 او شهر 3 وخذوها بعين الاعتبار. هاي نقطه.
يا حسين انا عايز اعرف
في الاجهزه الجديده
من الموضوع، معلش.
اوكي تمام. اوكي بالنسبه لقطع الغيار سؤالك يا استاذ كرام، تفضل.
انقل بس النقطتين وخلينا نشوف.
كرامي. Excuse me, Mr.
For Peter, for Peter, there are two questions about how easy it is to maintain and repair the Victor Reader track in case of any physical damage, because such blind specific products are expensive to be sent back and forth to the manufacturer. So how easy it is to be repaired?
So it's a great question. I think one positive piece is, when we build these products, we're not using proprietary ports or proprietary cards or things like that. So the components on the device are not something that is only unique to us. So we're using micro USB, we're using standard SD cards. In terms of, and I'm sure David, you can kind of comment further as to what the arrangement is, because I don't know if those devices are fixed in-house. But, it is something that the product has been out for about 5 years here in the States, and, the repair side is not, it's not been something that has raised red flags for us in terms of being able to get devices repaired, and also just there have not been known issues that have sort of popped up where there are repeated problems that we need to be taking care of. Yeah, I think like anything, we have to send things back, and it can be a bit of a challenge. But I'll let you kind of further that, David, because I'm not too sure.
I mean, it's like Peter's saying, it's a pretty robust device in the first place. So when we look at return rates and in or out of warranty, it's very low numbers actually on Trek, either for an accidental damage or an error or something. So as I say, you'd be quite unlucky already to suffer any issues, certainly within the first years of purchase. That said, obviously anything that is man-made, can therefore, malfunction. So we do have our partners in place, both in Qatar. So we have the Superwire company, and then also in the rest of the GCC, based in Dammam in Saudi Arabia, our partners at Al Bassam or Zero Data Soft. And Al Bassam themselves do carry out repairs. So there's lots of products that they do actually repair in-house. They receive training from Humanware, and they also have the parts and access to our technicians and our manuals. But Superwire also do carry out repairs, easier repairs as well. That said, we do also facilitate under our RMA arrangement to get the products back to the UK pretty quickly. So we have systems in place, and then the products can be either repaired or replaced. But we don't see, if I'm honest, on the Victor Reader range, we really don't see many issues at all. So I think it's a product you can be quite confident with.
The main issue, Mr. David and Mr. Peter, the people asking always main issue, the battery, replacement battery.
Yes.
If we can find it on somewhere else, or if you can send it quickly to somewhere, the main issue, the battery, only that.
Yes, the issue I understand is because the battery is classed as a dangerous item for freight forwarders where we're using air travel to transport batteries around. Now, the licensing allows us to ship 2 spare batteries with every device, but no batteries at all without a device. So I think really what we would probably do, because I think we don't really have a reservoir of batteries currently in the region. So, you know, when somebody is after a battery, we've got to sort of solve the problem for that one person or the 2 people. So I think I will talk to Mr. Mohammed Al-Bassam, and what I think I will probably arrange is to get some batteries when we're shipping product to him anyway. We can put some batteries in because it's a bulk shipment. We can put several batteries in. And I think then once we've done that, we can let people know that they will have the batteries. And I think locally it will be easy for them to send batteries to people through, for instance, I think, you know, locally you could go up by road rather than air. So I think that would solve the problem for a lot of people in the region.
Yes.
So I make a note of that, and I'll talk to Mohammed when he comes back tomorrow.
Yes, and please, I want to ask you one question about KSA. You know, KSA is very big country, okay? Why you have only one participant with you in there? Why you cannot make another company? Because, you know, there is east of KSA and west of KSA. It's very difficult when you send any device between east to the west. Sometimes it's you need an airplane to go between east and west. For that, we asking if you can make another company with you and in your participant to help people, to help more people in KSA.
Yes, well, I mean, we have a very strong relationship with Al-Bassam, so they are our sole partners, so they're the importers for Humanware, but they will have relations within Saudi Arabia, and I think I could ask Mohammed that, you know, do they have a relationship with a sub reseller on the eastern side? So Jeddah, I guess you're thinking, you know, where that could be easier
Medina,
for people to
Jeddah,
get to.
better.
Medina and Jeddah, yes. Yeah. Okay, let me ask the question.
Okay. شباب في سؤال ثاني؟
طبعا هو تلخيصا للكلام اللي قالوه، قالوا ان هو الجهاز عاده بيكون تصميمه قوي والمشاكل نادره، ولكن بالفعل في حاله وجود اي اشكاليه يعني تحدث في الجهاز فهو مكوناته ما هياش مكونات خارقه او مكونات استثنائيه او حصريه، حاجات كلها شرائح واشياء شائعه الاستخدام. وطبعا حسين اثار نقطه مهمه وهي خاصه بالبطاريات، وان ازاي البطاريات مش متوفره وان الناس كثيره بتدور على البطاريات لما بتهلك البطاريه اللي موجوده عنده. فهو قال ان دي من اصعب القضايا بالنسبه لهم في عمليه الشحن، ان لما 1 ولا 2 بيعوزوا بطاريه بيكون صعب انك تشحن له بطاريه لوحده، لان في سياسات صارمه جدا على عمليات الشحن
يعني بصراحه انا
الخاصه بالبطاريات. ولكن قال ان هو في المستقبل، وهو طبعا اتكلم على الشراكه القويه مع البسام في منطقه الشرق الاوسط والمملكه العربيه السعوديه على وجه الخصوص، وقال ان هو مستقبلا هيفكر انه لما يشحن كميه اجهزه كبيره يحط معاها كام بطاريه اضافيه، بحيث ان يبقى فيه زي ريزرفوار، يعني زي مخزن او احتياطي بطاريات في المنطقه. لو حد احتاج اي بطاريه يقدروا ان هم يبعتوها له عن طريق الوكيل الموجود. حسين سالوا كمان عن ليه ما فيش غير وكيل واحد بس في المنطقه او في السعوديه رغم انها كبيره. فهو قال ان البسام هم وكيل ما بيعتمدوا عليه من فتره طويله، وعلاقتهم به قويه جدا. ولكن هيتواصل مع المسؤول في البسام عن لماذا لا يكون لهم وكيل فرعي، او يعني موزع فرعي في المنطقه الغربيه على وجه الخصوص، اللي هي منطقه جده
والمدينه. نعم.
والمدينه وما حواليها. نعم.
انزين.
تفضل يا عمرو، لو اي حد عنده اي سؤال ثاني.
في احد عنده سؤال ثاني؟ خلي الفرصه.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام
تفضل.
ورحمه الله.
لو سمحت، ما أنا عندي سؤال. الآن هذا الجهاز خاص في قراءة النصوص،
اللي هو الفيكتور ريدر. نعم.
ريدر تريك، قراءه الكتب،
قراءة كتب ونافيجيشن.
طيب اي نعم، هل هو
يعني
يدعم اللغة
كمان
العربية؟
في خرائط.
اي نعم، يدعم اللغه العربيه، والايفنت اصلا انه رسميا اطلاق النسخه العربيه.
طيب اسألوه، هل هي تدعم خط اليد؟
لا هي ما بتعملش او سي ار.
لا ما تعملش او سي ار. لا
ما فيهاش كاميرا. هي بس انت تحط عليها
ارجع
كتاب
لمحاضراتنا الفي اي في كتر التقنيه وانت تعرف شنو الجهاز بالضبط.
اوكي شباب،
كم سعره هو له؟ كم سعره له انتم؟
$899.
جزاكم الله خير.
طيب عندي بس ملحوظه شباب. انا عارف حسين انك اثرت موضوع الهاردوير واتكلمت فيه، انا بس حابب الفت موضوع الانتباه للهاردوير تاني. الفيكتور ريدر اكيد رامي يتفق معي ان هو ما زال جهاز مش سوليد، مش متين، مش محصن كويس ضد السقوط. ما زال الاستخدام تايب سي بسرعات كويسه قوي. انا عارف انه في وقته، ولكن الفيكتور ريدر تريك كان المفروض ينزل بستيريو سبيكرز حتى من زمان. كان في منتجات تانية حد ملهاش علاقه بالمكفين تدعم ده. انا عايز اوصل ده برضو، معلش.
اوكي.
So David and Peter, here's another question for you about like how you think that the Victor Reader Trek is up to date in terms of its hardware, considering that it is still supports micro USB, while a lot of products are now switching to USB-C, and also the lack of stereo speakers inside them.
So it's a definitely a valid question. I think, when we built the product, and the kind of when we source components, and when we certainly try to do that at a very forward-thinking level. And the product, the longevity of the product, I think is what's most important here. So when we developed the device in 2017. That was kind of at the beginning of USB-C had kind of started, and now all of our new devices are using USB-C as they become more robust. I think though, yes, micro USB is certainly something that is not as widely used. It's still very much a part of everyday devices, but it's something that on modern devices we don't see. I think what's most important to take away from that, though, is not the age of the connector, but more so the fact that even 6 years on, our devices are still functioning, they're still supported, and we don't want to reinvent the device.
Nice.
For that exact reason. We know these devices will continue to grow and continue to last. And I see it as a positive that the device is still using micro USB. And I understand that, and there's no doubt about it, when we make a new device, it will not use micro USB. But the devices that we build, we want them to last for an extended period of time, and we don't want to just come up with a new hardware because A, it would cost more, and B, there's no reason for it at this point in time because our devices are still functioning very solidly and very consistently.
طبعا إجابة دبلوماسية جدا وذكية. بيقول إن احنا اخترعنا الجهاز ده في 2017، كان بداية انطلاق اليو اس بي سي، كان أكثر شيوعا هو المايكرو اس بي. وبقول كلام صحيح ان المايكرو اس بي هو اقل استخداما في هذه الفتره، ولكن يبقى ان الجهاز ما يزال يعمل بشكل جيد ويعمل ومدعوم بشكل ممتاز. والمكونات الداخليه الاخرى تعمل بشكل جيد، فما فيش حاجه الى اختراع او اعاده تدوير العجله من الصفر، لان هذا سيكون او سيعود
أكثر
بتكلفه
تكلفة.
زائده على المستخدم اولا،
إنزين.
وثانيا هيكون مجهود اضافي علينا باعتبار انه اصلا الجهاز الحالي شغال بشكل جيد. يعني اذا كان اليو اس بي سي او بعض التعديلات هي السبب الوحيد اللي تخليهم يغيروا، فهو لا يعني.
رامي، سؤال الشيخ ضروري وسؤال أرجوك توضح له إياه عشان يعطيني التفصيل. قل له بالتفصيل، ما بسؤال جواب موجز. قل له موضوع الإعدادات الإنترنت اللي إحنا اليوم كنا نتكلم عنها، الملف هل ممكن إنشاءه يدويا وكتابته يدويا ولا لازم عن طريق الهيومن وير كومبانيون؟
Here's a little bit of a technical question about adding Wi-Fi configuration file to the Victor Reader Trick. If it is possible to create a file, a Wi-Fi configuration file directly, or write it manually on a note, just as we write the labels for the SD cards, or we have to do it only through the Human Web Companion app.
يعني قل له تقدر تكتب ال XML فايل يدويا.
Yeah, sorry, and I for some reason my connection was kind of poor, so I didn't follow. But if you can repeat the question,
So
I'd be happy.
Yes, I can definitely do. So for the Wi-Fi connections, is it possible to manually create a Wi-Fi configuration file, to type in a configuration file manually on a computer and add it to the SD card, or we have to just rely on the Human Companion?
Sure. So it's a great question. I would strongly recommend using the HumanWare Companion software to do that. If you know how to make those XML files, you can. You know, they do exist, and it's a matter of you would have to do that in Notepad. So if you're comfortable with that level of kind of writing out that code, you certainly could. But I think the easiest way, especially if you're dealing with a complex network with various strings of characters, is to use the HumanWare Companion software to generate those XML files.
قل له أنا فاهم إنه يصير عن طريق الهيومن وير كومبانيون، بس
هو
ال XM فايل
هو بيقول قال إن تقدر تعمله عادي لو أنت فاهم الأكواد. هي العملية كلها ما هي إلا مجموعة أكواد ورا بعضها وتسلسل معين محطوط. فإذا أنت عارف إذا أنت هتقدر تعمل الموضوع ده اعمله، لكن هو بيقول الأسهل عشان تتجنب أي خطأ انك تعمله من خلال الهيومن وير كومبانيون.
زين، بس خليني اوضح حق الشباب برنامج هيومن وير كومبانيون هو برنامج تستخدمه لاستخدام الجهاز على الكمبيوتر او لتوصيل الجهاز على الكمبيوتر واستكشافه، مثل الايتونز شبيه فيه، اوكي، ولكن في خصائص وفي اشياء كبيره راح تشوفونه في الشرح اللي انا بسويه. وكنت أسأله عن شيء متقدم في البرنامج، وإن شاء الله بشرحه، مو بإني أنا مخليكم في غموض ولا شيء، بشرحه إن شاء الله. إنزين، بس أنا آسف، بس آخر نقطة، قل له الهيومن وير كومبانيون في نسخة عربية ولا لا؟ لأن لما دخلت على اللغات ما في عربي.
I also wanted to add just somebody mentioned about this stereo speakers. What a lot of users do benefit from is they will actually pair, because obviously we have the Bluetooth connectivity on the Trek, so you can actually use a Bluetooth connected headphones. Now, obviously, you want to be able to hear and be aware of your environment to stay safe. So typically, I would recommend the bone conductive headphones. So Aftershok's, I think they're a very nice lightweight brand. The model thing is Aeropex, and I think they do work very well with the Trek. We actually, in some countries in Scandinavia, they actually are supplied with the Aeropex by the hospital there, so that they will actually go out, supply the user with the Trek and with the paired Aeropex bone conductive headphones, and then do the training on that basis for people's MO training.
طبعا هنا الكلام على السماعات البلوتوث وازاي ان الجهاز بيدعم الاتصال بسماعات البلوتوث. هو طبعا لا ينصح باستخدام السماعات الهيدفون، خصوصا لو هتستخدمها في النافيجيشن في الحركه، ولكن هو بينصح بنوع اسمه البون كوندكشن. البون كوندكشن هي نوع من سماعات الراس اللي ما بتكونش على الاذن، هي بتثبت على بتنقل الصوت من خلال عظام الاذن وليس من خلال الوصول الى طبله الاذن مباشره زي السماعات الاعتياديه. من عظام الخدين بتنقل الصوت، فالاذن بتكون مفتوحه ومكشوفه لانها تستمع الى اصوات البيئه المحيطه في حال النافيجيشن. وهو بيقول ان افضل سماعه بتعمل البون كوندكشن هم اسمهم حاجه اسمها ايروبكس ولا ايروبيك، مش عارف يعني اسمها ايه.
Again the name please of the headphone.
What was the headphone that you recommended?
Okay, so the brand is Aftershocks and the model is Aeropex, the AEROPEX.
Aeropex. هي من افتر شوكس. افتر شوكس طبعا عندهم سماعات كثيره جدا.
Write it on my WhatsApp please.
I will do. There's an entry level product called Open Move, but I'll send the information to you offline.
In the WhatsApp. I will send it for the friends.
And again, I always talk about one of the most important pieces to that is, you know, we need to be able to hear our surroundings, but it's really nice because we have Bluetooth, you know, being able to listen to your environment, but also still take in the information that is being provided by the device is phenomenal. So whether you're using Bluetooth or wired bone conduction headphones, I would strongly recommend trying them. And for those of you who have never used them, they're very neat because it turns your ear into
Aeropex is wired or wireless?
Well, we're a bit different to the US because we're on a stocking, so we don't actually supply wired anymore. So we use I think there's 3 brands, so it's 3 models: Open Move, Aeropex, and there's another product in between as well. But I will send the
Aeropex is the highest one, right?
For the purposes that suit us, yeah. There are different brands that are more relevant to be in an office environment and having a microphone stick and things. But for portability and on the move, yes, Aeropex are the ones I would recommend.
But the company
there's other things where there's added levels of. It's Aftershocks is the company.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rami. They do have lots of different models. Some are more for swimming, for instance. The ones I'm talking about are more relevant to us.
رامي قل له عن سماعة الكتف.
So there's like some neck bands Hussein is using as well. Like it's like a type of speaker you put on your shoulders. It's not a headphone. It's like an external speaker. Speaker put on your shoulders, which like also make a good combination with the VR trick.
Anyway. Okay, thank you very much for this event. شباب شكرا لكم على حضوركم. إن شاء الله تابعوا هالفعالية وكل فعالياتنا على اليوتيوب في قناتنا. Excuse me, I will send for you the link of the YouTube event in your WhatsApp.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for attending with us today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, all. Eid Mubarak.
Shukran.
Eid Mubarak. Thank you very much. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا.
مع السلامة. مع السلامة. شيخ ديفيد. السلام.